Hey guys, Joshua here, and I'm here with Jim Vejvoda, who has seen the 33 minutes of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Just to throw it out there, we're going to have spoilers, obviously, because we're talking about those 33 minutes, but also we're going to have spoilers from the comic books. So let's just go right into it. Like, What did you see? What was the first scene that you saw?
Okay, well, as you said, there were 33 minutes of it. It started with the opening scene, which is, you know, the first Amazing Spider-Man movie said it was going to be the untold story of Peter Parker, and it never quite paid off because, you know, his parents didn't end up being as big a part of it as we had expected. Well, the movie opens in the past with Peter's dad, Richard Parker. He's a scientist at Oscorp, and he is basically, it looks like he's about to become a whistleblower on what's going on there. And he is
like a WikiLeaks kind of thing.
Yeah, and it gets even much more so as that scene plays out. He is deleting files. He is killing off experiments, including those spiders that we saw some experiments on in the first movie. And then he is also taking files, and he's going to he escapes with his wife Mary, and they leave Peter behind. Like we see, there's some callbacks to scenes that we saw in the original movie. So they get on a plane to Geneva, just Mary and Richard Parker, and as you can tell from the trailers, you know, that flight is doomed. And from the comics, his parents died in a plane crash, I believe. Well, we see what plays out there, and the father is trying to basically upload files from Oscorp to it's just called Roosevelt, and I don't know. I'm assuming it's some sort of whistleblowers type thing. So that's that whole sequence. So we see the death of his parents, and that somebody did not want Richard Parker to get that information out there. And then it goes on
actually
from there.
didn't get tied up in the first movie, so we're getting the second part of that. Right?
Yeah, and it was definitely, I mean, it was much clearer now that why Oscorp has been following Peter, because whatever the father was up to, whatever experiments he was working on, things he was looking to pay off, I mean, to blow the whistle on, are going to pay off in this film. The next sequence, it then jumps ahead into the future when we see a lot of that Rhino, well, we saw the entire Rhino chase sequence of Spider-Man chasing down the Rhino, and him and his goons have basically stolen a truck of plutonium from Oscorp.
So was this the Rhino like in the mech suit?
No, we do not see Rhino in the mech suit. We just see Alexei Sitsevich, you know, Paul Giamatti, who is having a very scenery-chewing cameo basically in the movie. So we do see him in the mech suit in the trailer. So it looks like when this sequence ends, and it's this very Blues Brothers-esque sequence with dozens and dozens of cop cars piling up, that we're going to see Rhino in the mech suit at some point later in the movie.
Well, how was Paul Giamatti? Like, did he have the Russian accent?
He did, and he was scenery chewing, and I think it's the fact that you know it's Paul Giamatti, so you won't put him in this movie for just a cameo, that, you know, it will pay off later in the film. But that intercutting in that sequence with the Rhino chase is Peter and Gwen's high school graduation. Gwen is the valedictorian. She's given the speech, and it's a very it's a speech that definitely has bad omens for her. She's talking about how short life is and how you got to grab it and all that stuff. And Peter sees a vision. He's in the middle of this chase scene with the Rhino, and he looks over at the cop car that's paralleling them. The cops are trying to help Spidey, and he sees what he thinks is George Stacy, the Dennis Leary character, the dad from the first movie. And so it's just a vision he has to remind him of the promise that he made to, like, don't let my daughter get hurt, and you know, his whole thing of, like, you know, I don't want, you know, the people in my life to pay the price for what I'm doing. And it's at that point when Spidey, you know, graduates from high school and everything, the story, there's a time jump.
There's a time jump. I think you said it was a 1-year time jump, right?
They jump ahead 1 year in time, and Peter and Gwen have broken up, and he gets a call out of the blue to come meet her. And you know, and they have this cutesy scene of, like, they're flirting with each other, but they're trying to lay down ground rules about how to just be friends. And then when it looks like they can't really do that because they're still into each other, that's when she drops the bomb on him of why she really called him, which is she's moving to London. She's up for a scholarship at Oxford, and so he's trying to deal with that news But as this is going on, his Spidey sense tingles, and there is trouble in Times Square. And that's when we go into all the stuff with Electro. And
yeah,
of
we've
course,
seen a lot of stuff of that in the trailers and
Yeah.
stuff. And you told me something interesting that they didn't show in the trailers is that Electro has this like electric vision, and they're also
Yeah.
using like these like sort of special effects to show Spider-Man's spider sense.
Yeah, it's almost like two cool things. The Electro Vision is sort of, the way I kind of imagine is like the way a shark sees blood in water. Everything's just that little bit heightened, like the lights of Times Square are that much more blinding. The lights of a headlight, he can see the outlines of the electricity from someone's cell phone in their back pocket. And so everything is just that little bit more, he's that much more sensitive to energy. And he needs that energy to survive, so something as simple as touching a headlight, it's like a vampire needing blood, and he basically has to suck the life out of this car to keep going, and that's what draws him to Times Square, where, as we see in the clips, he's feeding on the power cables. And it turns into this huge set piece where you reveal a lot more about Max Dillon's kind of motivation, that it's not until he sees himself on all those TV screens, giant TV screens throughout Times Square, and realizes finally people are paying attention to him. And then when his image gets replaced with Spidey, when Spidey shows up, his ego can't take it. And then Spidey Sense is almost, it's done in a couple of different ways, but there's sort of almost like a Matrix-y kind of bullet time thing at one point where he can see if people touch the railings that are going to get electrified, what's going to happen to them. And so he can jump and save people that way.
So it's a little more illustrative than like we saw in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah, and
Raimi
it's more,
movies.
and also, there's a lot of things that they're doing even within the Spidey Sense stuff. When Peter goes to try and do something, the electric blasts from Electro have ruined his Spidey shooters because they're not organic, obviously, in this version. So that was kind of a nice little touch, that he's kind of helpless. He's only got the one web shooter to save all these people who are in peril. Wow. And we see a lot of Spidey saving people in this movie. It's for people who thought like Man of Steel didn't show enough of Superman helping people. There's plenty of that in Spider-Man, and also a lot of the joy of him being Spider-Man. He loves being Spidey, and it's much funnier. Like his quips are that much sharper and stuff like that. So cool. It's definitely it's much more of the kind of Spidey that I think comics fans have been wanting to see again. But that wasn't the last sequence.
The last sequence, well, you'll tell it a lot better, but it has Harry Osborn, who's the eventual Green Goblin, meeting Electro.
Yes, and this is in Ravencroft, the asylum, and Harry has been roughed up. We've seen some of the photos and some of the little snippets in trailers that he's been beat up or something's happened to him, and police are chasing him. So he goes to Ravencroft to bust out Electro. He's like, "You help me get into Oscorp, and I'll help you get revenge on Spider-Man." And so they basically make this devil's deal together, but he has to essentially beg Electro to help him. And it's not until Electro's ego is kind of placated that, he agrees to help him. And then, Electro basically turns himself into pure energy after he's given enough juice from a taser that Harry has with him.
Well, so it was this.
So he can just basically turn into like electric mist and then reform like Dr. Manhattan style.
Wow, cool. So this already sounds a lot better than the team up that we saw in Spider-Man 3 when Venom
just run into each other in an alley.
Yeah, Sandman like, hey, do you want to go get Spider-Man? Sure.
Yeah, so, I got nothing else to do. Yeah.
So like overall, what was your impression after seeing these 33 minutes?
I was really, really pleasantly surprised with it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was really awesome. It was funnier. The action was bigger and better, and it was just it hit all the right notes. They showed us pretty much close to a third of the movie. It's going to be a little over 2 hours. It'll probably be about probably at least 2:10, maybe even longer than that. So to show 33 minutes of the movie, you've almost got a quarter of your film there, and you would think with that much footage that you'd see some false notes. And I thought everything worked. Like the character stuff was good, the action was really fun, and it was much bigger, and the humor worked a lot better. And it was for all these different moving parts and all these elements, it didn't feel crammed and it didn't feel overstuffed. It felt like, again, maybe they just showed us the best chunk of it. But so far, so good. You know, it definitely helped alleviate some of my concerns that maybe there was too much going on, or that, you know, I liked the Amazing Spider-Man, but I wasn't nuts about it. This at least feels like now we're just telling a news story. You know.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know.
There was also, though, I'm sorry to cut you off, but there also, you know, again in the spoilers from the comics, between Gwen's valedictorian speech where she's talking about like grabbing life because it's so short, and her going away to England, and the fact that she's wearing that kind of outfit from the comics and the cover and her death scene, I really think she's toast. Maybe they'll subvert expectations, but I think it's a coming. But I don't want to end it on a grim note. The footage was very fun. It's very action-packed, exciting. You've heard me talk about it now for a few minutes. Are you excited? More excited now for the movie?
Yeah, definitely. All the big action and stuff really has got me going. And being a fan of the comics, all the like little tidbits about finding out more about his parents and the relationship drama, that all sounds great.
Yeah.
So there you go. 33 minutes of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And for more on the movie, keep it locked here to IGN.